Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Paul, and today we have a follow-up on our Temu unboxing and just some general thoughts on Temu in general. Just a quick something about that previous video. It will be linked up here if you would like to go take a look. We will be covering things in that video, however, we'll not be covering every single thing in detail. That would be a bit much. It's just my general thoughts on kind of the items as categories more than anything. On Temu in general, if you have an issue with shopping with Chinese suppliers like that for any ethical, moral considerations, whatever, that's entirely fine. That's your choice. That just means that shopping for them isn't for you, and this video probably isn't going to change your mind. So that's fine. Feel free to continue to leave your comments down below on your thoughts and opinions, even if you just want to tell me how bad and evil and wrong it is, because that's still good for the algorithm. But this is just my thoughts on the Temu products, what I've got previously. I have shopped personally with Temu since then because it's a cheap way to get certain items. And just on my interaction with the company, that first video was not sponsored. They did not provide me money in exchange for the video. They gave me a budget that I then decided items to get on there myself. I received nothing but the items, which is basically the same as whenever I do a flashlight video and I receive the product, except with more freedom because it's an entire shopping platform and I chose what I had. I made no money from that first video except from the ad revenue, and this follow-up video has even less to do with Temu. I've had no contact with Temu since that video, and this is not going to be going through them whatsoever unless they just happen to somehow find my video themselves. The only money made from this video will be ad revenue. There isn't even any affiliate links down in the description. I would normally link you guys to things in videos for convenience. I'm going to be honest, listings change so often on Temu, it's not worth the hassle. Just have a quick look, you'll find something similar. With that said, I have a whole basket of goodies to go through, and let's go ahead and take a look at our first item. So first up is this sling bag, which I was actually pretty excited about. I liked the color. I thought it was kind of trendy. And general thoughts is yes, it is, you know, cheap material, loose threads, all that kind of thing. It was $9, which, let's be honest, for what you're getting is insanely cheap. On the loose threads thing, that's fine. You should just expect that. To be perfectly honest, I have Go-Ruck and Peak Design bags, which were most certainly not $9. However, they definitely came with their fair share of loose threads I had to deal with. So if you ever get loose threads on a product like this, just trim them back, burn the remainder off so that you don't get the stitch coming undone. It's fine, it's not a big deal. This, in general, I think is fine. However, it does touch on a larger issue with buying from sites like Temu, Shein, AliExpress, probably more than I'm not aware of because I'm not young and hip enough. And that problem is sizing. So on its absolute longest adjustment, this strap would just barely clip onto somebody that wears a large UK men's shirt. That's not very big, and it was really pushing the clasp to close. And I've received clothes as gifts from these places before. I know people that have bought clothes from sites like this before, and the general consensus is whenever you get things from countries like that, the sizing is going to be considerably smaller than what you're used to. So this is not bad. This would still make a great gift for a much smaller person or a child. And to be honest, I still occasionally use it as just a little bit of like an organized grab and go thing to throw in the car, but I physically cannot wear this. So it still has its place, it still has its use, but general warning, if you're going to buy anything that requires anything to fit your body, generously size up and don't be too surprised if it's a little bit too small. That's just the way it goes when you order from these places. So first item, I'm a little disappointed I couldn't wear it, but at the same time, it's still cool, and I still think it's decent value for money. Next up, lighting, and these are representative items from the lighting category. There was quite a few lights. Generally, I will just say this, all of the lights work, all of them were fine, none of them were like horrible tints or anything like that. They just all feel cheaply built, and all of them had terrible UIs a lot of the time and forcing you to go through some kind of strobe. That's it. They work. If you're just looking for cheap lights to throw in stocking stuff or to give somebody to make sure that they have a light available, or if you want to buy a bunch of lights just to hide them in different drawers, glove boxes, bags, so that there's just lights there, they're perfectly fine for that. They're incredibly cheap, a few dollars each. If you're looking for a EDC light, just save a little bit more and get something proper. There's plenty of budget brands out there that'll suit your needs, like Workhorse and SoFin, for like 10 to 20 bucks. You don't need to really be spending a lot of money. At the same time, these work just fine. This is a motion sensor light. Now, this works just fine. And in fact, I actually bought a couple of these for my parents to be used as under-counter lighting in their kitchen. So all I will say about this is that, yes, it is cheaply made, cheap flimsy plastic. It works. Sensor works. They provide an adequate amount of light. I will say that this first one I got is, seeing it there, micro USB. The ones that I got for my parents were actually USB-C, so that just seems like a bit of a luck of a draw thing, so make sure you check the listing if it is listed. The battery life is incredibly small. In a high traffic area like under counter in a kitchen where they're going to be triggered multiple times, basically every time that you're in there, it lasts about a day to a day and a half depending on what time of the year it is, so you need to recharge them frequently. For my parents, that's fine, they don't mind sticking it on charge. For a lot of people, I imagine that would be quite annoying, so just bear that in mind. I do have motion sensor lights in my EDC cabinets that I bought off Amazon. They were a lot more expensive, but they're also solid built, integrated magnetic attachments with much better like battery capacity and brightness. So just bear that in mind. If you just want a cheap light to throw in a closet, this works just fine. Just be aware that the battery life isn't great and try not to drop it, I guess. Next up is this USB-C, or USB hub, not USB-C, USB hub for $1.67. I love this thing. Look, don't use this for data. It's USB 2. Data transfer is going to suck. It would probably be fine for some peripherals, say like, you know, mouse dongles, keyboards, stuff like that, maybe some webcams. But the reason I got this was to have switched power control through USB. And as you can tell from all of the USB-C cables plugged in, I use this. Now, I have a lot of lights in my collection, and the nature of the channel means that I review a lot of lights that come partially charged that need charging. So I use this to charge a whole bunch of flashlights at the same time. This isn't the quickest way to do it, but I only have so many ports, and I don't feel like spending a lot of money on a decent multi-port charger. So being able to just plug this into one outlet and leaving a whole bunch of flashlights to charge overnight at once, it's very convenient. And during the odd couple times that I've actually had blackouts since this video came out previously, there's been a couple times, being able to use this as connected to a power bank and then some USB lamps, such as, am I going to knock everything over grabbing this? Probably. That's fine. Such as this little mushroom-like guy, and being able to turn them on and off individually as needed was nice, but primarily I just use this for charging stuff, and I can highly recommend it. I would happily have paid like £3 to £5 for something like this. It is cheap, but it works just fine. Next up are our pouch representatives. Obviously we have quite a few pouches, including a actually slightly better material, slightly larger version of my Urban EDC pouch, link up here. These are fine. They work just fine. Obviously, generally speaking, expect things to be a little smaller than you might have expected. I really like this format of pouch, and I might try again and get a larger one, This one is a little bit too small, but there's still plenty of use that I can find for future kits. And it's fine. This is a kind of toiletry style bag, as it's mesh, vented, all that kind of good stuff. And as you can see, it is currently making sure that some of the smaller items don't get lost in the course of making this video. The pouches are fine, they work. I've had no egregious build quality concerns. Some of them were a little smaller. That wash bag thing, which I have actually used as a wash bag, it works quite nicely, was larger than I expected. So if you want to get a pouch from Temu, go for it. Again, besides sometimes the sizing, you're not really going to go wrong. But whilst we're here, let's go ahead and take a look at this. And I'm just going to call this like the small items. So specifically some small titanium tweezers. This little guy's novelty, a little caliper. A deep carry dangle clip, and a very small bolt action titanium pen. And then I also got some magnetic hooks, which I don't have here right now because they're in use. They're doing stuff like holding up a calendar and some lights. So magnetic hooks, definitely cheap, strong enough, get them if you want them. And stuff like this is fine for the most part. It works. This tiny caliper, it works. It is chintzy. It will slip around a lot, so it is hard to use. It's mostly just a little novelty thing. If you want a caliper, buy a real caliper. But for the odd tiny measurement and for the novelty factor, that's fine. This tiny pen works. I have used it. It comes with several refills. And I've actually seen the exact same one on Amazon for more, actually. So, yeah. I would say if you're looking for a tiny thin pen, something like this works just fine. Just bear in mind that it's going to be a scratchy writing experience, and as with any very thin pen, it's going to be a little awkward. But stuff like this, cheap, works, and honestly, it's this kind of stuff that Temu's really good at if you want to spruce up or expand your EDC. And that includes things like this little add-on thumb stud and this ulti-clip. I don't know who makes ulti-clip, to be honest. It could just be a cheaper source of them, or it could just be a very well-made knockoff. But this screw thumb stud, I've bought the exact same product in brass before. It works just fine, and it makes a otherwise two-hand knife, one-hand open, which is very nice and convenient. You know, just a little UK EDC thing that I normally keep in the sling bag I actually use. And the ulti clip made this CRKT quite a nice little pocket carry. The ulti clip actually works very well. It will shred the crap out of your pants before it comes off of its own accord, I'll tell you that much. So stuff like these, super cheap. Thumb stud was $2.49. The ulti clip was $5.99, which is still significantly cheaper and comes with all of the hardware you need. Same with the thumb stud. It came with a little Allen wrench or Torx wrench so that you could actually fit it. Stuff like this, the quality's fine. They work well. Yeah, I can recommend them. Now next up we have kind of a twofer. So this thing is a Velcro backed elastic attachment thing. There was a set of 3 originally. I haven't used the 2 larger ones, but the smaller one I actually use as a hygiene module in my sling bag, and there'll be a sling bag carry at some point. And it works well. It keeps everything together. I have tested the Velcro on the inside of my Peak Design bag. It sticks just fine. Again, loose thread central, clip, burn. It is what it is. They were pretty cheap. Yeah, I can recommend them. Go for it. Now, the other thing here are these bottles. So these are little spray bottles, and you can see the pocket wear has actually rubbed the coating off of this one substantially. But this one is used for alcohol-based hand sanitizer, basically. And this one is used for glasses spray, particularly the Whoosh brand. And I carried these in my pocket loose before I started using the sling bag for a long time. Great, fantastic. I highly recommend getting tiny spray bottles because they're fantastic for EDC purposes. And these particular ones, they look good, they work well, very happy with them. I actually bought an additional one of the small just to have, just in case I want to use it again in future, because I don't want to find that the ones I like aren't in stock anymore. So these little pouch organizer things, yeah, they work. Just clip some threads. Spray bottles, big yes, will improve your life regardless. Everyone has a phone, even if you don't wear glasses. Being able to clean them comfortably. And sometimes you just touch icky stuff and you want to make sure your hands are nice and clean. So I strongly recommend both. And finally, this little cutlery and cup set. Again, these were very cheap, as was everything in the video, really. Cutlery was $2.69. This little telescopic silicone cup was $1.49. And they work just fine. They feel incredibly cheap. This feels like cheap plastic and cheap thing, approaching metal, but they work. Silicone cup works fine. Silicone may split at some point, just fair warning. This one hasn't. I have used it a few times, although sometimes I use it more like a bowl for water rather than using as a cup for myself. This has actually been pretty good for making sure that the cat has access to water when she's outside on a hot day, just putting it down just so that she has it nearby. They work. I can recommend them. This would be great to have in the car, just so you know that you have some cutlery if a place doesn't give you any, or they give you really crappy cutlery. Like, I would rather use this cheap metalish cutlery than try and use those really thin bamboo knives and forks, which leave the taste of wood in your mouth every time you eat and are very hard to actually eat food with. So for the price, yes, I can recommend. I don't make a lot of use of these purely just because I have higher quality versions already. This was just to see if you can get something easyable like this. This would be perfectly fine in your work lunchbox, in your car, just generally to have around if you want, as for camping. Yes, I can recommend these. They are cheap, they feel cheap, but they do what they are meant to. They work just fine. And as I have alluded to before, I have shopped with Temu after that video. I've placed a couple orders since because it's been quite useful for stuff. Like, I got a very nice little screen that sticks in my car that lets me connect. It's like a Bluetooth FM transmitter with a screen to do Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. That was like £24 or something, and it turned my dumb car smart. I got an ultrasonic cleaner, which did a pretty good job of cleaning up my family's jewelry. Like, it's very useful for certain things. And one of the things that I benefit from a lot is studio lighting. So how my studio-ish thing works is I have an arm that you guys are slotted into, and then there are two cold tube mounts on the phone holder I use that holds two of these. This is my original studio light. This is from Ulanzi, and I got this on Amazon, but it always gave uneven lighting because I only had one of them, naturally. And it started doing this. Connection loose inside, it became unreliable as a light. So because I cannot easily take this apart and fix it myself because there's screws like down here accessed through these tiny holes, I actually ended up buying very similar, but instead of this layout, it actually has two wheels, one that controls the brightness, which is far more control than I got from this stepped approach anyway, and one that controls the tint. I can actually give you a live, brighter, dimmer, changing color. You get the point. This was around 15-20 quid when I bought it a few years ago from Amazon. These lights were $6.99 each, and they're better. They have all of the cold shoe attachment points that this does, including the threaded mount in the bottom. They have the dials instead of the more limited approach. It's better. I'm happy. And whilst I'm sure buying bigger photography and video lights from them would be a little bit sketchier, these little ones that you can just slap onto a camera or for more limited settings like this, I really recommend them because they work and they're far more affordable than the alternative. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the things I got from Temu and Temu in general. I would say that for things like pouches, things like hooks, I got a little roll of Velcro as well. That's come in handy. Things like that, I would strongly recommend, yeah, go for it. Anything that is going to fit your body and requires a size involved, try and size up, because even then you may end up finding it doesn't fit, so try and avoid size things that need to fit you in general. For lights, I would say those motion lights, as long as you're aware of the compromises with the build quality and battery life, they can be fine for closets and whatnot, and they're very cheap. EDC flashlights, I would generally say don't do it unless you want stocking stuffers or cheap things to scatter around. Just get a decent light from somewhere else. You save money in the long run, I think. Overall, I think Temu is a great source for EDC items. You just need to be aware of some of the trade, the pros, the cons, and what works and what doesn't. Be aware that some things are going to feel surprisingly nice, some things are going to feel cheaper than you expected and you knew they were going to be cheap. Sometimes it can be a crapshoot, sometimes you can find gems in the rough, but with the amount of money involved, generally speaking, you're not going to be missing out on much, even if it goes bad, which can be not so the same said of other retailers. But that's just what I think. Have you guys used Temu before? Do you use it for EDC? Do you have any EDC recommendations from Temu or similar sites that you would like me to check out? Let me know in the comments down below. Whilst you're down there, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe. And if you have a problem with Temu, you don't want to use Temu, let me know down below why. It still helps the video. And if you really hate Temu and you don't want stuff like that appearing on the channel again, feel free to go to the Patreon or Coffee and subscribe so that we can, have a budget to put more expensive things on the channel. But that's it. I've been Paul, and I'll see you in the next video.